Hey everybody, it's Greg Rice here in the bucket, Pawtucket, Rhode Island. And we're back for another episode of Can You Believe That is a Bill? Can you believe it's a bill? We're going to go through today in detail. I want to really dig into this one. Senate Bill 2631, it was introduced by the Senate Housing and Municipal Government Committee on March 1st of this year. Okay, and the senators, we're going to introduce our starting lineup. Senators Coleman, Quezada, Valverde, Acosta, Mack, Luria, Miller, Gu, McKinney, and Burke. Okay, so this bill, and we'll put it up on the screen here for you, and what most bills do is they lay the foundation in the beginning, right? They tell you what's their findings of fact. And in this case, the findings of fact, I disagree. I don't believe they're facts, and we'll get into that. But they, in essence, lay the framework for what the situation is, what's causing the problem, and then, aha, I have the solution to said problem. So let's go through the findings of fact. The General Assembly hereby finds that, number one, the state faces a severe and continuing housing crisis. Many state residents are unable to obtain and retain affordable housing. I agree with the affordability. I disagree with the crisis. We don't have a housing crisis. We have a demand crisis. Rhode Island has the smallest amount of size of any state in the whole country, and the majority of it is highly developed. So we will always and continue to be one of the last when it comes to housing production, simply because we have, 1,200 square miles in the whole state to work with? Okay, it's not like we're Texas. It's not like we're Florida. Okay, Alaska, California, these big states can build and build because they have space. We don't have that luxury. So, the crisis has profoundly negative effects on the state. It causes dislocation, which frays the social ties that bind our neighborhoods and communities together. It forces vulnerable residents to leave their home for communities where they are strangers. And it contributes to homelessness. Okay, it does cause dislocation. It does fray the social ties because these people are leaving. It forces vulnerable residents to leave. I agree with that. And it contributes to homelessness. I agree with all of the following. But what I disagree with is that this is my problem as a landlord, or the state's problem. The cost of doing business, the cost of living is the cost. There's nothing you or me can do about that other than keep up with the pace. And that's a tough pill. People are going to hate me. People probably want to hit me through the screen right now. But that's what it is. The ticket to the show or the concert, like I mentioned in my last video, keeps going up. So eventually, something's got to give. Maybe you got to watch it. You got to watch the concert from home, i.e. relocate, downsize, change your style or status of living. And people don't like to go backwards in America. They want to go forwards. But the costs of our state, our housing, are preventing a lot of people from doing that. But again, I think that's a healthy thing. That's competition. That's free market. That's why we are what we are today in Rhode Island, such a desirable place. The state's housing crisis is caused in large part by a shortage of affordable rental housing. The creation and preservation of such housing is therefore of paramount public concern. One obstacle to the creation and preservation of affordable housing is rapid turnover in the state's real estate market. Nonprofit organizations seeking to create and preserve affordable housing they don't even know, willing and able to pay market prices to purchase residential buildings for sale, but nevertheless find themselves unable to purchase such buildings before they leave the market. Nonprofits serving the broader public interest must often move more deliberately and borrow purchase money from non-traditional lenders in such real estate transactions than private entities concerned solely with profit. What I'm getting here is that the state's rapid turnover, right? A house gets posted for sale on the MLS. It goes like that. Because what? Because what? Come on, be good. Say it. Say it for me. Because of demand. Demand. The demand is so high that once you post a property, it gets gobbled up. We would have a crisis and a problem if we were posting and nobody was buying. Then I would say, yeah, let's get the nonprofits involved. Somebody's got to stimulate this market. Somebody's got to buy these properties, right? Because there is a waiting list for people that need affordable housing. In that case, it makes sense. In this case, it's contradictory. We're saying we have a crisis because the houses sell too fast. You see where I'm going with this? So it goes on to say the purpose of this chapter, and this is called the Community Opportunity to Purchase Act, is to enhance nonprofits' ability to purchase multifamilies at market prices within a reasonable period of time, and to thereby promote the creation and preservation of affordable rental housing. So from there, it'll get into some definitions, which I'm not going to bore you with. And I want to get to, okay, let's go to qualified nonprofits, right? So what is a nonprofit? We hear that term all the time, but what is it? So a qualified nonprofit means a nonprofit corporation, okay, which has been approved under 26 USC 501c3 with the IRS, is organized and operated with one of its principal purposes being to provide housing for low and moderate income persons, or a public housing authority. So you can say Rhode Island Housing, most of us know that one, or individual housing authorities in each city and town. Pawtucket Housing, Woonsocket Housing, Providence Housing. So those are the agencies that we're talking about that would have an express lane to our pockets, okay? And priority to our pockets. So moving forward from that, this bill is saying that Rhode Island shall establish a process which interested nonprofits may submit for consideration on an annual basis their credentials for participation in this program. So it's saying, hey, Rhode Island Housing, are you interested in being a part of this bill? Right? If it became legislation, they would have to apply and say, yes, we have a need for 1,000 apartments right now. If we could purchase properties, we can chip away at that need. So it goes into that. We're not going to go through all that detail. Moving on, the existence and publication of qualified nonprofits. So this would create a website, a list of qualified nonprofits. In addition, this list shall include the contact information for each of the nonprofits. So they're almost talking about essentially a registry of all of the agencies in the state that would be interested. So there would be a priority for Rhode Island nonprofits, which makes sense, okay? And now we're going to get into the meat and potatoes, which is the first right to purchase, which is my issue here, is it's giving them a specific amount of time before any other qualified, bona fide, free market buyers could say, yeah, Greg, I want to buy your property. Qualified nonprofits shall have the right of first offer for a period of not more than 60 days, okay? 2 months they get. 2 months. And if none come, none come. But if 10 come, 10 come. Okay? If the qualified nonprofit elects to extend the right of first offer to a 90-day period, it shall make a payment equal to 0.5% of the asking price for an extension. Any person or entity holding property subject to this chapter, which is in essence anybody with a multifamily, shall be limited to an asking price no more than 20% above fair market value as determined by a licensed appraiser or realtor. And you guessed, who's paying for that appraiser? Who's paying for it? Not them. You. Me. Upon receiving an offer from a qualified nonprofit, the seller shall have no more than 10 days to respond. Okay. Confidential information protected. Any information obtained from a seller by a nonprofit shall be kept confidential, right? Obviously. Next up is pre-existing rights, unaffected. This chapter shall not be construed to impair any contract or affect any property interest held by anyone other than the seller of the multifamily. All right, so that makes sense. State-owned buildings, we're not going to get into that, but the enforcement is really where it gets me. Every seller of a multifamily in any city or town within 15 days of the sale of that building has to submit a signed declaration under penalty of perjury affirming that the sale of that building substantially, interesting word choice, complied with the requirements of this chapter. Each such declaration shall include the address of the relevant building. You're essentially saying that, yeah, I followed the 60-day requirement. No nonprofits came and I sold it to a traditional buyer. But if you didn't wait the 60 days, right, and you're just signing this form, says next, failure to file, right, or fraudulently filing this shall be an infraction punishable by a fine not to exceed $5,000. So, what I think that is aiming to do is people are not going to abide by it. People are going to sign and say that they did. And this agency, right, what are we going to call this here? Rhode Island Housing and Mortgage Finance Corporation is going to say, hey, no, you didn't offer it. $5,000 fine assessed at the closing, and the state has a new tax or a new fee that it's going to grab from all of our sale transactions, is my guess, if, this ever did pass. I am speaking tonight to respectfully oppose this legislation. Today's March 14th. I encourage you all to get involved, okay? Obviously, I do this for a living, and you are not doing this for a living most cases. You buy rentals so that you have passive, hassle-free, quiet income. But there's so much going on that's going to impede that it's imperative that you get involved. Even on a small scale, you can email a simple letter of opposition explaining your points of view. Because a lot of these politicians, they don't own businesses. They've never hired a person to work for them. They don't own multifamily housing. But you know what they have? They have time and they have power. Two things that most normal Americans don't have access to. And with that, they create and seemingly spit these bills out with the help of legal staff that writes it for them, and it just throw it on the wall, see if it sticks. And this doesn't impact them. These are people that are hearing from their constituents. The people that are at the bottom of this totem pole, in essence, the people that are vulnerable, okay, the people that are being displaced and dislocated. They're hearing from them very loud, so they have an obligation as an elected official to try to quell that concern. But what happens is they're hearing from the people that are the loudest. And they're not hearing from you. They're not hearing from me, right? Because we're busy running our businesses, trying to get ends to meet, trying to pay our mortgages, our taxes, our insurance. We know that we can't do anything about it other than do better and do the right things. So they're not putting in bills on our behalf to lower interest rates, right? To lower taxes. That would never, ever happen. So how do we prevent this? By uniting, by coalescing respectfully, non-violently, right? We want to do it with our minds, with our words, and with our actions. So I take pride in this. I love this. It's an education. It's building your reputation. It's gaining knowledge. Okay? And time and information are the two most valuable resources in this world. And that's a Damon John quote. Damon John, the founder of FUBU. So get involved. You can spend some time. Everybody's online on Instagram, right? Everybody's on Facebook. So take that time and put it elsewhere. Become a student of the game, or else you're going to get railroaded. And to me, $5,000 fine, take it. But you, okay, maybe you got a 3-family. That's not, who's got $5,000? The big guys, guys that own hundreds of units like me, we can navigate these waters. We can figure it out. This is hurting the small, the rookie, the novice investors that turn into big investors, that turn into the big guys or gals. Okay? So don't take that for granted. And don't think, oh, somebody else will do it. That's what's that? The bystander effect. Such a great thing, the bystander effect. It's more importantly when a crime happens, oh, somebody else will call. But this is the bystander effect is, oh, somebody else will speak up. Oh, that's crazy. Oh, I can't believe that. That's a bill. Wow. So we talked about in another video, awareness, action, and then making a difference. So you're aware now, if you got this far in the video. Next step is take some action, which I will do tonight. And hopefully step 3, making a difference, means this gets held for further study, meaning it's shelved. It's not going to get put into law. So the more of us that do that, the better we are. And I implore you to join the Rhode Island Coalition of Housing Providers on Facebook. It's a group over 1,000 members strong, all landlords here in the state. And it's a group that advocates, okay, and promotes the interests of landlords. And we are recognized at the State House. They know who we are. So feel free to join in. Any questions, put them in the comments field below. Once again, Greg Rice here in the bucket, your property and your terrible legislation managed.